want to talk to you about something simple, yet incredibly powerful: believing in yourself. Every great achievement in history started with one person who dared to believe they could do something extraordinary. Before he became one of the greatest basketball players of all time, Michael Jordan was cut from his basketball team. Before became a famous author, J.K. Rowling faced rejection after rejection from publishers. Before changing the world with electricity and innovation, Thomas Edison failed thousands of times. What made them different? It wasn't luck. It wasn't talent alone. It was belief. Believing in yourself means trusting your abilities even when others doubt you. It means continuing forward when things get hard. It means understanding that failure is not the end, it's a lesson. There will be times when people say you're not good enough. There will be moments when you question yourself. In those moments, remember this: your dreams were given to you for a reason. No one else has the exact strengths, your exact perspective, your exact potential. Self-belief is not arrogance, it's confidence. It's that quiet voice inside you that says, I can try one more time. It's waking up after a failed and choosing not to quit. The truth is, the biggest obstacle we face is often our own fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being perfect. But growth only happens when we step outside our comfort zone. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? Your journey may not be easy. You may fall. You may fail. But every setback is preparing you for a comeback. Every challenge is building your strength. Every small effort is bringing you closer to your success. So today, I challenge you. Dream big, work hard, stay consistent, and most importantly, believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Because the moment you start believing in yourself is the moment you become unstoppable. So guys, I just want you to believe in yourself. It's definitely training for 100K is really hard. So you're going to have to go through some trial and errors. But the reason we train for it is so we can learn from our training and try to improve and ultimately make it past the finish line. So thanks for being with me today. And today we're going to talk about caffeine and how it can help us in performance. Real quick, I haven't been getting good sleep with this week that I did my long run and incorporated the two VO2 workouts, and I gave up my Achilles workout. I was actually only down to one a week. I gave it up, and I had one of the worst long runs that I've had in a while. It was basically my fault, but hopefully you can learn from my mistake. So I kind of went out a little bit too early. Kind of forgot that the bathrooms don't open until 7 o'clock in the town that I live in. So basically in the winter time, if you're not planning on taking a hydration pack with you and you're using your route, like bathrooms and stuff, for fueling, if you're getting out there early, they could be closed. So I forgot about that, and basically I got really dehydrated because I didn't get water until like 2.5 hours into the run. And then I overdrank. So then I had cramps. And on top of that, I was kind of sick from not sleeping in the week. Not like COVID sick, but just a little sick. And then on top of that, my legs were really heavy. I guess from the 2 VO2 workouts. I didn't think I did that much, so I don't know why my legs were really heavy, but it was like I'd already worked out or something. Like, if you know that feeling that you have when your legs are really heavy. Definitely didn't feel light on the feet. And then on top of all that, my Achilles pain was at like a 3 or a 4 on the run. So that wasn't good as well. So kind of thinking about what I ate during the week and what I did. Gonna try to get some better sleep. I think that's the number one focus during this week, is to get better sleep. If you get some great sleep, then you're gonna be able to recover very quickly. So going to try to get some good sleep, and hopefully things can be better on the next week. Also, I'm going to implement 2 Achilles workouts inside my training. So that way my Achilles can feel better. I don't know if I'm going to drop the 0 shoe and go to an 8mm or a 10mm shoe. That's how much pain it was in. But today I was able to do 60 pounds with the what do you call it? The toe raises or whatnot, or the foot raises, with no problem, no hurting or nothing. So that was a good sign. I went through the whole motions of the Achilles workout, and I crushed it. It was a really good workout, and no signs of pulling up or anything. Like, it wasn't hurting or anything. So that was a really good sign for the Achilles. But it wasn't feeling good during the long run. And don't want to ever do that again. So for me, I got to be more careful going out there, and making sure that I go out there when I plan to refuel with some water, that I know what time the restrooms are going to open. So just something that you have to watch out for during the winter. In my city, usually the water fountains are on during the spring, summer, and fall. So not really an issue. But during the winter, that is an issue. Because the only way I can get water is from the sinks of the restroom. So unless I take a hydration pack with me, I guess. I think all the food that I'm carrying and all the stuff's getting kind of heavy for shorts. So I might have to switch to hydration pack anyways for these next couple ones, because they're getting longer now. Usually I think 20 miles took me 4.5 hours, and 22 miles is going to take me probably around the same, if not more. So, and that's what's going on next week, is the 22 miles. So we'll see how the sleep goes, and hopefully it will be better, and get that extra workout in there, and then do some more VO2 workouts, but maybe do them in the beginning of the week, and maybe try to do more upper body and that kind of stuff later in the week. So that way when I go on my long run, my legs aren't so heavy. Anyways, yeah, so, even with me, I'm still learning, still testing it out. So, I mean, it's just in the training, you're always learning and trying to get better for sure. So today we're going to talk about caffeine. And you could have a high sensitivity to caffeine, or you could have a low sensitivity to caffeine. What that means is if someone took caffeine before they're going to sleep, are they going to stay up for the whole night? Or are you taking caffeine and you can still go to sleep? But I would say, the experts say that you should give 8 hours of time of no caffeine before you go to sleep. Should be kind of like a rule of thumb. And then something else that people say is that caffeine takes away your nutrients. So I would say try to time it when you're running at a different time that you take in some nutrients. I'll try to space it out, but I know that's probably tough. If you're eating food, it's easier to plan it out in the day. Take your caffeine and then wait an hour and then eat some food. And then your body should be able to absorb more nutrients that way. Also, there's been research that the caffeine can slow down blood to your brain. But I don't know what it's like when you're running, because I'm sure there's lots of blood flowing when you're running. So I don't know the research on that too much, or if there's any on that. Anyways, caffeine can be good. It's an enhancer, but it's recommended that you treat it differently for different distances and different times. So what I'm saying with that is, if you plan on running like a marathon and your time is like, you're going to get done with the marathon in 3 hours, then you could take some caffeine before the race, and then you could take it every hour in the race, and then you should be fine, right? When it gets to like a race being like 6, 7, 8 hours, then, which for a lot of people that could be a 50K or 50 miles, depending on your speed. That one, you might want to wait 3 hours, right, before you take your first dose of caffeine into the race. Okay. And then I would say that if you're doing a 12-hour race, right? Maybe you're running a 100K or 100 miles, depending on how fast you are. Those ones, if you're 12 hours, you want to push it as long as you can. Maybe 7 hours before you take your first caffeine. But if you're doing 100 miles and you are like planning on doing it in 24 hours or 30 hours, then you're going to want to just wait until you feel tired. Which, kind of funny. I guess you feel tired the whole time sometimes. But, you might want to wait till nighttime to start taking the caffeine. And, what I've learned is more is not better. More makes you more tired. All right, that's for me. Um, I'm not everybody, so I don't know. This is something that you'll probably want to test out yourself to see how your body reacts to caffeine and what dose is right for you. But I would say that you want to do as low of a dose as you can, um, being like 20 or 30 milligrams of caffeine every hour should be efficient. And I guess the less is more is what I could recommend for you guys. Now, caffeine's so cheap. You can get caffeine in a pill, and they're super cheap. I mean, you can get a bottle of like 100 caffeine pills for like $10. And you can get caffeine in a chew and a gel. You can get caffeine in the electrolyte mix as well. So those, sometimes they're 80. You just want to be cautious of how much you're taking with the caffeine is what I could recommend with that. Just make sure you're aware and make sure you're testing yourself in the training and make sure you know what's going on and how you felt when you took this amount and how you felt at the end, right? So, but yeah, delaying the caffeine as much as possible is what I could recommend if you're doing a race that's really long and going to take a long time. Is probably the best course of action on your part. That way you don't feel so crappy at the 6 hours into it. So that way you feel really crappy within the 6 hours, and then you start taking the caffeine, and then you feel you're going to start feeling a little bit better on that 7th hour, right? So what I could say on that, caffeine can also raise your heart rate. So you definitely want to talk to your cardiologist about taking the caffeine and making sure that everything's okay when you take it. That way you don't have any complications with your heart on race day. Everybody can respond different to different foods, different even to caffeine. So that's why it's good to try it out during the training period and find out what dose is good for you if you do plan on taking caffeine, if you can take caffeine, and figuring out how to take it, whether that's a gel, a chew, or a pill, right? Or powder form in your electrolyte mix. So with that being said, let's see what AI has to say about this.
8 miles. That is roughly the distance from London to the Belgian border.
Which is a pretty long way to drive, let alone run.
Right. Now, I want you to imagine running that exact distance nonstop in the dead of winter, up and down the spine of northern England, carrying a heavy survival backpack.
It sounds kind of like a punishment, honestly.
It really does.
Yeah.
But people actually pay money to do this. We are talking about the spine race.
Which is widely known as Britain's most brutal race.
Exactly. But we aren't here today just to talk about the mud and the freezing rain and the glory.
No, we're looking at something much deeper.
Right. We are here to talk about a biological limit that every single person listening to this has to deal with. The absolute need for sleep.
Because the spine race presents this perfect extreme laboratory for studying human physiology.
Yeah.
It pushes the body to a place where your standard biology textbooks sort of, they just stop applying.
They really do. And we've got a fascinating stack of research for this deep dive today. It's centered on a PhD thesis by Dr. Borja Martinez Gonzalez from the University of Kent.
Right. Titled Sleep Deprivation and Ultra Endurance Performance.
And the mission for our deep dive today is pretty straightforward. We want to know what actually happens to the human brain and body when you force it to operate for over 100 hours with almost no sleep.
And the most interesting part.
Can we hack it?
Exactly. Can we cheat the system with chemicals or training?
It's the ultimate productivity fantasy, isn't it? Just eliminating the need for sleep.
It is, but as this thesis points out, the biological debt collectors are very, very persistent.
They always get paid. So let's set the scene with part one of this research, the observational study. And this wasn't done in some sterile lab.
No, this was literally out in the field. The researchers tracked runners across 3 different editions of the spine race.
And the conditions matter here, right?
Oh, massively. The Pennine Way in winter is dark for like 16 hours a day. It is raining, snowing, freezing cold.
Just navigating must be exhausting.
The cognitive load is immense. You aren't just running,
Yeah.
you're surviving.
So they strap these runners with GPS trackers and these actigraphy units.
Right.
And for anyone listening who hasn't heard of actigraphy, it's basically a massive step up from your standard smartwatch.
Significantly. Actigraphy is actually the clinical standard for estimating sleep and wake cycles when you aren't in a formal sleep lab.
Because it measures movement and light.
With extremely high sensitivity, yeah. In a race where a quote-unquote nap might literally just be passing out in a wet ditch for 4 minutes.
Wow.
You need that granularity to know if they're actually asleep or just moving incredibly slowly.
So the GPS shows where they are,
Yeah.
and the actigraphy shows if they're conscious.
Precisely.
And the data they pulled from these devices revealed a strategy that is just, well, it's terrifying. They call it the no sleep strategy.
It's a brutal reality of the sport. The thesis found this moderate but very clear association. Basically, the faster you want to finish the race,
The less you sleep.
the less you sleep. Which sounds obvious, but the sheer extent of it is wild. The actual finishers, the ones who survived the full 268 miles,
Yeah.
they averaged a total sleep time of only 11.2 hours.
Wait, hold on. Let's contextualize that for a second. The average finishing time is around 141.8 hours.
Right.
That is almost 6 full days.
Exactly. So imagine your normal week, Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
Now imagine sleeping for only 11 hours total across that entire week.
That is insane.
It's roughly 7.8% of their total race time.
So the other 92% of the time they are moving or eating or just freezing in the dark.
Yeah. And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
That sleep is not evenly distributed.
They don't just take a nice 2-hour nap every night.
Not at all. The data showed that on average, finishers pulled this massive first push. They stayed away for 24.6 hours straight before even attempting their first sleep bout.
I mean, tactically, I guess it makes sense. You're running on pure adrenaline. The pack of runners is tight. You don't want to fall behind on day one.
Tactically, sure.
But biologically, what is that doing to your system? Staying awake for 24 hours is hard enough sitting at a desk, let alone running a double marathon at the same time.
It sets the stage for a massive accumulation of sleep pressure. And this is where the thesis gets into the 2-process model of sleep regulation.
Process C and process S.
Exactly. You need to understand these to get why the runners eventually crash.
Okay, so I see these terms a lot. Process C is your circadian rhythm, right?
That's the one. It's the sine wave. It goes up and down every 24 hours, mostly dictated by light.
It's the body clock.
Right. It tells you, be awake now, sleep now. And even if you don't sleep, this clock just keeps ticking.
Oh, so that's why you get that weird second wind at like 9 in the morning after pulling an all-nighter.
Exactly. Your process C is shouting, hey, it's morning, wake up.
Even though you feel like garbage.
Yeah. But then you have process S,
Process F.
which is the homeostatic sleep pressure. Think of it like a pressure cooker. Every single minute you are awake, chemicals like adenosine build up in your brain.
And the pressure just rises linearly.
The longer you're awake, the higher the pressure gets. Normally, you go to sleep, the valve opens, the pressure releases, and you wake up fresh.
But these runners aren't opening the valve.
Nope. So process C is still waving up and down, giving them these cruel, false hopes of energy. But process S is just climbing completely off the charts.
It's just a linear buildup of toxicity.
It really is. And the thesis highlights that this pressure eventually dictates how fast they can go. The runners slowed down significantly in the second half of the race.
Because they just physically couldn't maintain the no sleep strategy anymore.
Right, their behavior changed. In the second half, their rest times increased. They started taking more frequent, longer breaks because the pressure from Process S just became impossible to ignore.
Now, there was one detail in the demographics of this study that really surprised me about who actually survives this.
Morning types versus evening types.
Yes. Because I would have bet money that the night owls would dominate this. People who are used to being up at 3 a.m. anyway.
You really think so? But the data showed the exact opposite. The finishers were predominantly morning types, the larks, or intermediate types.
And almost no evening types.
Barely any.
That seems so counterintuitive. If the hardest part of the race is pushing through the dark, cold night, why do the early birds win?
The researcher suggests it comes down to sleep inertia.
Okay, what is that?
So when a morning type wakes up, even from just a short 20-minute nap, they tend to become alert very quickly.
They snap out of it.
Right. But when an evening type is forced to wake up at some odd hour or after a quick microsleep, they struggle way more with that grogginess.
Oh, that makes sense. If you're napping in a freezing tent, the ability to snap awake and get moving is basically a superpower.
Exactly. In a multi-day event like this, it is all about the efficiency of your recovery, not just how long you can stay awake.
Wow, so the ability to wake up is actually more valuable than the ability to stay up.
It completely flips the script on endurance.
Okay, so picture these runners. Sleep pressure is maxed out. They are slowing down, which brings us to part 2 of this deep dive, the physiology of failure.
This is such a fascinating part of the thesis.
Because it asks the big question, why do they actually slow down? Is it just that their muscles are completely destroyed?
And this was the biggest aha moment for me. We all just assume they slow down because of peripheral fatigue, glycogen depletion, muscles failing.
Right, the hardware is breaking.
But the study suggests that is not the primary driver. The engine is actually fine.
It's not the hardware, it's the software.
Precisely. The researcher focused heavily on RPE.
Rating of perceived exertion, usually measured on a scale from 1 to 10.
Or 6 to 20, technically. But yeah, it's a subjective measure of simply how hard does this feel right now.
Okay.
Now here is the twist. During submaximal exercise, which ultra running is, nobody's sprinting for 268 miles.
God, no.
Sleep deprivation does not significantly change your heart rate or your oxygen uptake.
Wait, let me make sure I'm hearing this right. If I am totally sleep deprived, but I'm jogging at 5 miles an hour, my heart is beating at the exact same rate as if I had slept 8 hours.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah.
Physically, the metabolic cost of the work is identical. The engine is running at the exact same efficiency, but the driver thinks the engine is exploding. As the race went on, the runner's subjective sleepiness scores jumped from a 2 out of 9 all the way to an 8 out of 9.
So they are barely keeping their eyes open.
And as that sleepiness spiked, their RPE went through the roof.
So running a 12-minute mile on day 1 feels like a 3 out of 10 effort.
Yeah.
But on day 4, that exact same pace with the exact same heart rate feels like a 9 out of 10.
Exactly. The brain literally dissociates the feeling of effort from the actual physical output.
That is wild. Why would it do that?
It's a protective mechanism, the central governor theory. The brain senses that rising process S pressure and decides, okay, this is incredibly dangerous. I need to make them stop immediately.
So it artificially cranks up the sensation of pain and effort.
It is lying to you to save your life.
That is incredible. And the thesis points out that it attacks very specific cognitive functions to force you to stop, right?
Yes, specifically, there's a massive decline in inhibitory control.
Let's define that for the listener. Because normally when I think of inhibitory control, I think of, stopping myself from saying something embarrassing at a dinner party.
It's the exact same mechanism. Inhibitory control is your brain's ability to suppress a natural urge.
Like not eating a second donut.
Right. But out on the spine race, the most natural urge in the world is to stop running.
Your whole body is screaming, sit down, it's freezing, we're in pain.
So running is actually an ongoing act of inhibition. You're constantly inhibiting the urge to quit.
Oh, wow. So you aren't just pushing forward, you are actively suppressing the stop button.
Correct. And sleep deprivation selectively destroys the prefrontal cortex's ability to maintain that suppression.
So that stop button gets bigger and redder.
And much harder to ignore. At the exact same time that the running feels physically harder than it actually is.
It's a double tap. The physical effort feels worse, and your willpower to resist quitting just evaporates.
No wonder people start hallucinating and wandering off into the bogs. They literally lose the executive function required to stay on the path.
Okay, so the core problem is perception and executive function. The engine is fine, but the dashboard is completely broken.
Well put.
Which perfectly sets up part 3 of the thesis. Because if the problem is just chemical signaling in the brain, can we block the signal?
Enter the world's most popular psychoactive drug.
Caffeine.
Caffeine.
I feel like anyone listening knew we were heading here, but for this part, the thesis actually transitions from the freezing mud into a controlled lab, right?
Yes. They wanted to test a very specific intervention. So they took participants and put them through one full night of total sleep deprivation.
No 20-minute microsleep.
Nothing. Just kept awake in a lab setting. And then they administered caffeine. But we really need to talk about the dose here.
This wasn't just handing them a morning latte.
No. The dose was 6 milligrams per kilogram of body mass.
Okay, let's do the math on that. I'm roughly 75 kilograms. So
It's about 450 milligrams of caffeine.
450. Wow. To put that in perspective for the listener, a standard Red Bull is what, 80 milligrams?
About that. And a strong cup of coffee might be around 100.
So I'd be chugging 4 or 5 cups of coffee back to back.
All at once, yes.
I would be vibrating. I think I'd be able to see through time.
You probably would.
Yeah.
And so were the test subjects. After that massive dose, they had them perform a 30-minute running time trial.
And what happened?
The results were huge. The caffeine group improved their performance by 5.54% compared to the placebo group.
5.5%. In endurance sports where margins are razor thin, that is massive.
It's the difference between a podium finish and coming in an hour behind.
But let's look at why they got faster, because it goes right back to the software.
Exactly. The caffeine group reported significantly lower RPE. The running literally just felt easier to them.
So the caffeine fixed the broken dashboard.
It recalibrated it temporarily. And it wasn't just physical performance either. They also tested psychomotor vigilance, basically reaction time.
And the Stroop test. I love the Stroop test.
It's a classic.
Just to explain it quickly, that's the test where the word blue is written in red ink and you have to say the word red, right?
That's the one. It forces you to inhibit your automatic response, which is reading the word, and focus on the actual task, which is naming the color.
Which sounds exactly like the inhibitory control we were just talking about.
It's a direct measurement of it.
And usually sleep deprivation completely tanks your score on that.
It destroys it. You just can't focus. But the high dose of caffeine restored it. It sharpened their executive function, allowing them to focus and keep inhibiting that urge to quit.
So what is the actual mechanism of action here? How is a chemical from a coffee bean doing all this? Is it just blocking that process S pressure?
That is exactly what it's doing. We mentioned adenosine earlier, that chemical that builds up like a pressure cooker the longer you're awake. Well, caffeine is structurally very similar to adenosine. To your brain, they look like twins. It's an imposter.
So it jams itself into the adenosine receptors.
Yeah, but it doesn't activate them.
It's like putting gum in a keyhole so the real key can't get in.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yes.
The adenosine is still there in your brain, floating around, screaming at you to sleep.
But the brain can't hear the screaming because the caffeine is blocking the receiver.
Exactly.
This sounds like an absolute magic bullet. Take the caffeine, your perceived exertion goes down, your focus goes up, and you run 5.5% faster.
It sounds great.
And there's always a but in biology.
Always.
This brings us to part 4 of the thesis. Because you can't just run on caffeine forever. The researcher wanted to look at the long-term application.
Right. What they call the failed hypothesis.
And this part really resonates with that whole online grind set culture we see today. The, I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality. The researcher asked, can we train for this? Like, if I just deprive myself of sleep over and over again, will I build up a tolerance?
That's a totally logical question. We train our muscles to handle heavier loads. We train our hearts to pump more blood.
So can we train the brain to handle adenosine? Callousing the mind, as some people like to say?
Well, they tested it. They ran a 14-week study where subjects performed exercise bouts after nights of sleep deprivation repeatedly over months.
Looking for any sign of adaptation, did they get better at handling it?
The verdict was a resounding, unequivocal no.
0 adaptation.
0. There was absolutely no improvement in tolerance. One night of sleep deprivation consistently reduced their time to exhaustion by about 28%.
Every single time.
Every time. It didn't matter if it was week 1 of the study or week 14. The performance drop was identical.
Man, that is a hard pill to swallow for the whole mind over matter crowd.
It points to a hard biological limit. You can build your aerobic capacity all you want, but you cannot condition your neurobiology to ignore the toxic accumulation of sleep pressure.
The biological tax is basically a flat rate.
The tax must be paid.
So if you're an ultra runner or honestly just a junior doctor or a shift worker and you catch yourself thinking, oh, I'm getting used to running on 4 hours of sleep.
You're wrong. You might be getting used to the misery. Like psychologically, you might complain about it less.
Not physiologically.
Your performance is degrading just as much as it did the very first time. You're just normalizing your own impairment.
Normalizing the impairment versus actual adaptation. That is such a crucial distinction.
It really is. And it brings us right back to the caffeine. Because if you can't train for sleep deprivation, your only option is to mask it.
Which brings us to the summary of what we've unpacked today. We've gone from the freezing mud of the Pennine Way to the lab and back. Let's stack these takeaways.
Okay, so we've learned that to do the impossible, like running 268 miles in winter, you have to enter a massive state of physiological debt.
You have to ignore the buildup of process S.
Right. And we learned that the failure point out there is largely perceptual. Your brain lies to you about how hard you're working.
It ramps up the perceived exertion to force you to stop.
And it kills your inhibitory control so you can't resist the urge to quit.
Then we learned that caffeine is this incredibly potent weapon because it helps you believe the lie that you aren't tired.
It buys you that 5.5% performance boost purely by muting your body's safety signals.
But the final lesson, and the one that is definitely going to stick with me, is that you cannot cheat the house.
No, the tolerance study proved that pretty definitively.
You cannot train your way out of the need for sleep. The bill always comes due.
Always.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought on that specific point, because we view all these countermeasures, the caffeine, the sheer willpower, the massive first push, we view them as tools for success.
And clearly they work. Right. They get people to the finish line of the spine race.
They do. They allow us to access these deep reserves we didn't even know we had. But if fatigue and perceived exertion are actually safety signals...
If they're the check engine light.
Exactly. If they are designed by millions of years of evolution to prevent catastrophic failure, then what are we actually doing when we use chemicals to mask them?
That is the real danger right there.
Because if you cut the brake lines on a car, it will definitely go faster down the hill. You will hit a higher top speed.
Yep.
But are you actually unlocking new potential? Or are you just disabling the safety features of a machine that is rapidly running out of structural integrity?
It is a very fine line between an elite athletic performance and a medical emergency. In the spine race, they walk that edge intentionally.
But for the rest of us, relying on the hack might just be driving the car into the ground without even realizing the wheels are about to fall off.
It's definitely something to think about the next time you reach for that fourth espresso to power through a deadline.
You might win the sprint today, but biology always wins the marathon. Thanks for jumping into this deep dive with.
Picture the scene. It's 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, the classic runner's morning.
Right. It's pitch black outside. The house is absolutely freezing, and you are standing in your kitchen in your running shorts, just staring at the coffee maker.
Waiting for that little light to turn green.
Exactly, just waiting. It's almost a religious experience, isn't it? We treat that morning cup like it's the holy water that's going to exorcise the sleep demons.
It really is the most critical piece of gear for most runners. I think a lot of people would honestly rather run without shoes than run without that first cup.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I am legally not a person until I've had it. But I was reading through this stack of research we have for today's deep dive, and I kind of had a bit of a crisis.
Caffeine crisis.
Yeah, because turns out most of us, myself included, are looking at caffeine completely wrong.
Cool.
We just see it as this simple on switch, you know? You drink the bean water, you wake up. Simple.
And that is exactly the trap, because the data suggests caffeine isn't just some wake-up button. It is a highly complex performance-enhancing tool.
Right. And like any power tool, if you use it wrong, you can actually hurt your performance. Or at least you're leaving a lot of speed on the table.
Which is exactly what we're digging into today. We're moving way beyond just drink coffee, run fast. We have sources here ranging from a brand new 2025 study on delivery systems.
The gum versus pills debate.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
And all the way to some pretty wild protocols for ultra marathoners. And the big headline really seems to be that the way we take our caffeine might be entirely outdated.
It completely challenges the traditional morning routine. We are going to look at why chewing your caffeine might actually be superior to drinking it.
Which blew my mind.
Yeah, and how to time it so you don't crash, and why some people might actually be slowing themselves down with that second cup.
So here is the mission for this deep dive. We want to take you from being a casual coffee drinker to a highly strategic caffeine user.
A tactical user.
Exactly. We're going to build a dosage cheat sheet for literally every distance, from your local 5K all the way up to a 100-miler. And we are going to talk about how to slay the sleep monster, which I know sounds like a fairy tale villain, but for endurance athletes, it is very, very real.
Oh, yeah. So let's start with the new science. We have this 2025 study led by Li Ding and colleagues, and this was the one that really grabbed me because it sets up this direct battle: gum versus capsules.
Right.
Because I always just assume caffeine is caffeine, right? Like,
Yeah.
Does it really matter how you actually get it into your body?
It matters immensely, and that is exactly what Ding and his team wanted to prove. They took a group of resistance-trained men, and they wanted to isolate the delivery method.
Keep the dose the same, change the vehicle.
Precisely. So everyone got the same robust dose of caffeine, which was 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight.
Let's actually pause on the math for a second just to set the stakes for everyone. 4 milligrams per kilogram. For a normal-sized guy, say 75 kilos, that's 300 milligrams.
Which is a lot.
So that's not a small amount at all.
No, it really isn't. Think of that as roughly 3 strong cups of coffee or 2 heavy-duty energy drinks, all hitting your system at the exact same time. Yeah, it's a true performance dose. It's not you're enjoying a morning latte type of dose.
Okay, so they have this really high dose. Group A swallows a caffeine capsule with water. Group B chews caffeinated gum for 5 minutes. And then both groups go work out. So what happened?
Well, the first takeaway is that caffeine absolutely works. Both groups saw their 1-rep max go up on bench press and squats compared to a placebo.
So they literally lifted heavy.
They lifted heavier, they had more muscular power. So if you take caffeine, you perform better. That part isn't necessarily new.
The surprise is the timing, though, because I was looking at the absorption rates in the study, and the difference is just wild.
It's the speed that completely changes the game here. The capsule group had to take the pill 60 minutes before the workout to actually see those benefits.
60 minutes.
Right. But the gum group, they started working out almost immediately and saw the exact same boost.
Why is the gum so much faster, though? I mean, if I swallow a pill, it goes to my stomach, dissolves, and boom, I'm caffeinated. Why on earth does that take an hour?
It's what we call the commute time. When you swallow a pill or drink a coffee, it has to go down the esophagus, sit in the stomach, move into the small intestine, and then...
Wait for it.
Yeah, this is the key part. It has to pass through the liver before it enters your general blood circulation.
Ah, the liver.
Yes. That whole journey takes time, usually 45 to 60 minutes to reach peak levels in the blood.
And the gum just finds a shortcut.
A massive shortcut. It absorbs directly through the lining of your mouth, specifically the buccal mucosa.
The buccal mucosa. Okay, that sounds highly technical.
It's just the medical term for the lining of the cheeks and mouth. It's supervascular, meaning there are tons of blood vessels right near the surface.
Oh, I see.
So when you chew the gum, the caffeine molecules diffuse straight into those blood vessels. It bypasses the stomach and the liver entirely. You get peak effects in literally 5 to 10 minutes.
That is a huge difference, practically speaking.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about race morning, right? If I'm standing in the starting corral of a marathon, I'm shivering, and I suddenly realize I forgot my caffeine.
It's too late for a pill.
Exactly. If I take a pill, then it's useless. It won't hit me until I'm at mile 4 or 5.
You've completely missed the start. But with the gum, you pop it in during the national anthem, and by the time the gun goes off, you are locked and loaded.
That is amazing. But, for me, the speed wasn't even the most compelling part of this study. It was the side effects.
Oh, the stomach issues.
Yeah. I feel like every runner has at least one horror story about coffee in their stomach.
The dreaded GI distress. It is actually the number one reason runners DNF did not finish. And the study showed a massive difference here. In the capsule group, 37.5% of the men reported stomach issues.
Nausea, cramping, that sort of thing.
Yeah, nausea, needing the bathroom immediately after exercise, almost 40%.
That's more than 1 in 3. Those are Russian roulette odds on race day.
It is really high. But in the gum group, only 12.5%.
So just by chewing it instead of swallowing it, you cut the risk of the runner's trots by 2/3.
Yes, because you aren't dumping a concentrated chemical bomb into your stomach acid right before you start jumping up and down. You are keeping the stomach relatively empty.
That alone seems like enough reason to switch, honestly. But there was another side effect finding that I think is even more fascinating for recovery. They looked at the participants 24 hours later.
They did. And this is where the science gets really cool. The capsule group had significantly higher rates of tachycardia.
Rapid heart rate.
Exactly, rapid heart rate and palpitations the next day compared to the gum group.
Wait, I need you to unpack that for me. If it's the exact same amount of caffeine, 300 milligrams for both groups, why does the pill mess up your heart the next day? Well, the gum doesn't.
It goes right back to the liver and that commute we talked about. When you swallow the pill, it goes through what's called first pass metabolism in the liver.
Okay.
The liver breaks the caffeine down into metabolites, which are smaller byproducts, and some of these metabolites just hang around in the system for a long time.
So the pill basically leaves trash behind.
In a way, yes, it creates a lingering physiological stress, but the gum bypasses that first pass. It enters the bloodstream directly, does its job, and seems to clear out much cleaner.
Wow.
So the gum group didn't have that lingering cardiovascular stress 24 hours later.
That is a legitimate game changer for people who train daily. I mean, if I have a hard interval session on Tuesday and another one on Wednesday, the gum might let me sleep better Tuesday night and recover faster because my heart isn't racing all night.
Precisely. It really challenges the idea that caffeine is just caffeine. The delivery system matters just as much as the dose.
Okay, so we have firmly established that gum is the tactical winner for speed, stomach safety, and recovery.
Absolutely.
But before we get into the dosage cheat sheet, I want to pause on the mechanism itself. We know it makes us stronger and faster, but why? I feel like people just think it gives them energy like a shot of sugar or carbs.
That is probably the biggest myth in sports nutrition. Caffeine provides 0 caloric energy. It is not fuel. It is a masker.
A masker. Okay, what is it hiding?
Fatigue. Think of your brain like a car dashboard. Throughout the day or during a hard run, you burn energy. The byproduct of that burning is a chemical called adenosine.
Adenosine, got it.
Adenosine is like the check engine light or the low fuel light. It builds up, it binds to receptors in your brain, and it tells you, hey, we're tired. Slow down. Go to sleep.
And caffeine is what? Putting a piece of black tape over the light?
That is the perfect analogy, yes. Caffeine looks almost identical to adenosine on a molecular level. So it swoops in, parks in those exact same receptors, and blocks the real adenosine from getting in.
That's incredible.
The fatigue is still there, the engine is still hot, but your brain just can't see the signal.
So you are essentially gaslighting your own brain into thinking it's fresh.
You are hijacking the fatigue signal entirely. And for the muscles, it actually does something else too. It potentiates calcium release.
Okay, bring that back to English for me. Why do my muscles care about calcium?
Calcium is the trigger that makes muscle fibers contract. When your brain says move, calcium is released inside the muscle cell to make the physical squeeze happen. Caffeine forces more calcium to be released.
So it's literally a harder squeeze.
Exactly, a much more forceful contraction. That explains why the guys in the study could bench press more weight. It wasn't just that they were more awake, their muscles were literally firing harder.
And we can't forget the dopamine hit either. I know when I'm at mile 20 of a marathon, I'm not just tired, I am miserable.
Right. And caffeine boosts dopamine signaling. That improves your mood and it lowers what we call your rate of perceived exertion.
Meaning it just feels easier.
Exactly. Running an 8-minute mile pace literally feels easier because your brain is floating in a bit more happy chemical. You just aren't suffering as much.
Okay, so we have the why and the how. Now we have to get into the how much. Because I feel like most runners just wing it. They drink a cup of coffee, maybe 2, and just hope for the best.
Winging it is dangerous with caffeine. It operates on a bell curve. If you take too little, you get no benefit. If you take too much, you don't get faster, you just get anxious.
So what is the magic number? What does the literature actually say is the sweet spot?
Across almost all the sources, the performance baseline is 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight.
Okay, let's do the math for you, the listener. If you weigh 70 kilograms, that's about 155 pounds, you're looking at roughly 210 to 420 milligrams.
Correct. That's about 2 to 4 standard cups of coffee. That is the range where you get the maximum benefit for the blocking of adenosine and that extra calcium release.
But what happens if I'm the type who thinks more is always better and I go for, say, 600 milligrams?
You hit the ceiling. The studies show that once you go above 6 milligrams per kilogram, the performance benefits completely plateau. You do not get any stronger or faster.
But the side effects?
Oh, they skyrocket. Anxiety, shaking hands, heart palpitations. You get all the bad with 0 extra good.
So 6 is the hard ceiling. Don't break the ceiling.
Exactly. Save your heart.
Let's build this cheat sheet then. I want to walk through different race scenarios because the strategy obviously changes based on how long you were out there. Let's start with scenario A, the local 5K. It's short, it's fast, it hurts. What's the play?
For a 5K or even a 10K, you want to preload. The race is over in 20 to 50 minutes. You do not have time to take anything during the run. You want your blood caffeine levels peaking exactly when that gun goes off.
So if I'm using the gum,
Chew it 15 to 20 minutes before the start. Aim for that 3 milligram per kilogram range. The gum is vastly superior here because in a 5K, you are running at a very high intensity. Your heart rate is near max.
you do not want a stomach full of hot lattes sloshing
So
around.
exactly.
That sloshing feeling is the absolute worst. Okay, scenario B, the marathon. This is a totally different beast. You're out there for maybe 4 hours on the road. If I preload at the start, won't it just wear off?
It will. Caffeine has a half-life. By mile 16 or 18, those adenosine receptors are starting to open up again. The tape is falling off the check engine light.
And this is usually where people hit the wall.
Right on cue, around the 30-kilometer mark. So for the marathon, you switch to a drip feed strategy. You start with your baseline dose, but then you need a booster every 90 minutes or so, maybe 50 to 100 milligrams.
This is where those caffeinated energy gels usually come in, right?
Yes, and gels are great because they have carbohydrates, which you desperately need for fuel anyway. But, and this connects right back to our study, if you are really struggling mentally at mile 22, like you are in a dark place, a gel might take 20 minutes to kick in.
Because of the stomach routing.
Right, but the gum hits your brain in 5 minutes.
So keeping a piece of caffeine gum in your pocket is basically like having a panic button.
It's a very smart tactical move. It's an instant rescue for your brain.
Okay, now we have to go to the true deep end of the pool. The ultramarathoners. The people running 50 or 100 miles. They are out there for 24 hours plus. You can't just keep drip feeding caffeine for a full day and night, can you? You'd have a heart attack.
No, you can't. And even if your heart somehow survived, your brain wouldn't respond anymore. In a 100-miler, you are fighting basic biology.
We have some fascinating insights here from Jason Koop, the ultra running coach. He has a rule that honestly sounds absolutely terrifying to me as a coffee lover. He says no caffeine for the first 24 hours.
It sounds totally impossible, doesn't it? But it is a brilliant strategy. Think about it. If you start a 100-mile race at 6 a.m. and you start pounding caffeine immediately, by the time night falls, your receptors are completely flooded.
You've basically built up a massive tolerance during the race itself.
Exactly. You have no ammunition left. So when the sleep monster actually shows up, the caffeine won't work because the receptors are already full.
So Koop advises staying clean all day.
Let the natural fatigue happen. It's going to hurt anyway. Save the caffeine for the witching hour.
Witching hour. That sounds ominous.
Oh, it is. It's usually 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Biologically, your body temperature drops and your circadian rhythm just screams at you to go to sleep. This is the ultimate danger zone. This is where runners start hallucinating.
Yeah, they see faces in the trees or think rocks are animals.
It happens all the time. But if you have saved your caffeine sensitivity by abstaining all day long, a strong dose right here acts like a defibrillator. It snaps you back to life because your receptors are wide open and ready for it.
There's another tactic mentioned for this stage that was just genius. The caffeine nap.
Yes, Heather, Hart, and Coop both discuss this one. It's for when you are literally falling asleep on your feet and you just can't push through anymore.
How does that work? Because usually you don't take caffeine right before a nap.
It's all about the timing. You find a spot on the trail away from the noise of an aid station, you wrap yourself in a space blanket, and you set an alarm for maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay, so you actually sleep.
You sleep. But here's the trick. Immediately upon waking, and I mean the second your eyes open, you hit a high dose of caffeine. Ideally the gum or a pill because you want it fast.
But wait, why sleep first? Why not just take the caffeine to stay awake?
Remember the adenosine buildup. Sleep is the only thing that actually clears adenosine.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So you nap to clear some of the pressure naturally, and then you immediately block whatever receptors are left with the caffeine.
So you're hitting the fatigue from both sides. You're clearing it out and blocking the rest.
Exactly. It creates this massive swing in alertness. It totally solves sleep inertia. You know, that groggy zombie feeling you get when you first wake up from a hard nap. It gets you back on the trail instantly.
That is tactical biology at its finest. It's really impressive. But speaking of tactics, I want to touch on one controversial topic before we wrap up. the caffeine taper.
Ah, yes, the withdrawal strategy.
Yeah. I have friends who literally stop drinking coffee a whole week before their race because they think it will reset their tolerance and make the race day coffee hit harder, like a super boost.
The theory makes logical sense. If you reduce tolerance, the effect should be stronger. But the sources we looked at, including Heather Hart, are pretty unanimous on this. Don't do it.
Oh, thank goodness, because I didn't want to do it anyway.
The problem is the withdrawal itself. If you are a daily coffee drinker, your brain relies on that adenosine blockade just to function normally. Quitting cold turkey a week before a race sends your body into total chaos. Headaches, irritability, lethargy, massive mood swings.
You definitely don't want to stand on the starting line feeling like you have the flu.
Exactly. You spend race week feeling miserable and stressing your body out. The sources say the marginal performance boost you might get on race day is absolutely not worth the week of misery and physiological stress.
So if you drink 3 cups a day normally, just drink 3 cups a day on race week.
Stick to your routine. Do not shock your system right before a big effort.
Good advice. Now, there's one last variable we have to mention because it explains why my friend can drink an espresso after dinner and go straight to sleep while I'm wired for 2 days if I even sniff a coffee bean. Genetics.
It is the CYP1A2 gene. It completely determines how fast your liver breaks down caffeine.
The fast versus slow metabolizers.
Right. If you have the fast version of the gene, your liver clears caffeine rapidly. You get the boost and then it's gone. If you are a slow metabolizer, the caffeine just hangs around for a long time.
Does that actually matter for performance on the road, though?
It does. For slow metabolizers, high doses of caffeine can actually hurt performance. It can cause blood vessel constriction that lasts way too long, reducing blood flow to the muscles, and it significantly increases the risk of heart issues.
So for those people, taking that 300 milligram pill we talked about might actually make them slower.
Slower and potentially put them in the medical tent.
Man, how do you even know which one you are? Do you need to go get a 23andMe test?
You can get a genetic test if you want, but honestly, the best test is trial and error in training. And this brings us to the ultimate golden rule of the deep dive. Never, ever try a new caffeine strategy on race day.
So if you've never taken a caffeine pill before, don't just pop one at mile 20 of the marathon.
Please don't. You might end up with a panic attack or in the porta potty instead of crossing the finish line. Test it on your long runs. See if you get the jitters. See if the gum upsets your stomach.
And watch out for hidden caffeine too, right?
Yes. The FDA doesn't strictly regulate caffeine labels on proprietary blends, so a little energy shot could have 200 plus milligrams, way more than a coffee. You have to know what you were taking.
Treat it exactly like testing a new pair of shoes.
Exactly.
So, if we distill this whole deep dive down, we're looking at 3 main takeaways for you, the listener.
First, the delivery system matters. The new research shows gum is faster 10 minutes versus 60 minutes, and it's cleaner for your body than pills or liquid. It saves your stomach during the race and saves your heart some stress the next day.
Second, respect the dose. 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram. Anything more is just anxiety, not speed.
And third, strategy beats habit. Don't just drink coffee because it's morning. Use caffeine tactically. Preload for the 5K, wait for the sleep monster and the ultra.
It really does make you rethink that morning cup. It's not just a beverage anymore, it's a chemical weapon against fatigue.
It is a legal, highly effective performance enhancer. But always remember, it masks fatigue. It doesn't replace training. You still have to put in the work and run the miles.
Very true. And here's a thought to leave you with today. We spent a lot of time talking about how gum is superior. Faster absorption, fewer stomach issues, better recovery next day. If the data is really that clear, are we seeing the end of the pre-workout pill era? I mean, why are we still swallowing capsules that take an hour to work and potentially ruin our sleep when we could just chew a piece of gum and be ready in 10 minutes?
It's a great question. I really think we are going to see a big shift in the sports nutrition market as people catch up to this science.
And for you listening, do you actually know if you are a fast or slow metabolizer? Or have you just been powering through the jitters for years, assuming it's working? Something to chew on. Literally. Thanks for diving in with us.
Stay caffeinated, everyone, but strategically.
Wow. Well, I agree with, almost pretty much everything they've said with the caffeine. I would say, yeah, if you're doing a race, pretty high up there in the hours, I would agree with you'd want to wait and take your caffeine Something with me when I took caffeine. If I took 300 milligrams, I just get tired and my body just wants to sleep. That's just what happens to me. I know everybody's different. So, you're going to want to trial and test the caffeine as you up your mileage in your training for the 100K, if you are doing 100K, which is 62 miles, right? But while you're training, test the caffeine and what products you like. A really good site is called The Feed. It's kind of like Amazon, but for nutrition products. And something that's really cool about them is they have right on the screen when you click the product, they have the nutrition facts of the product just right there. If you've ever been to Amazon, you know that looking for the nutritional facts can be a hassle, and it can also not be there. So I'm always fascinated with companies that don't put the nutritional facts on their product on Amazon. It's like they're trying to hide it or something. And I would love to see the data on that. If they sell more by not showing you what's on the label or something. Like, I don't understand why a company would put their product on Amazon without the nutritional label, unless they sell more by not having it or something. I don't know. Anyways, that is very strange, and it's very frustrating as an athlete looking on there for a product to maybe test, but you want to see the nutritional facts on the product before you buy it to test it. So that's something that the feed has that's really special. Is it just has all the products on there, but it also has easy to get to nutritional facts on all the products, which is nice and handy. And there's so much to choose from. It's just a little bit insane. But yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. It's called The Feed. And it's a website where you go to pick out a product, and there's too much. You could literally be on there for like 3 hours just looking at all the products and figuring it out. So it's pretty awesome. A lot of choices, but hopefully you'll find something that works. And you don't have to buy normally a 30-day supplies or whatnot. Sometimes they sell the packets individually, where you can just get a 1 serving packet or whatnot if you're looking at the electrolytes mix or something like that. So it's definitely worth something to look at if you've never heard about it. I think you'll definitely fall in love with the website once you go there. So hopefully that can help you. And they should have some caffeine gum if you wanted to try that after hearing that podcast. But you can also try a pill, or you can have it in your electrolytes in a powder form. So there's a lot of different ways you can take in caffeine for sure. But once again, it's not an enhancer. It kind of just a blocker. So with that being said, you still got to put in the miles in the training for the ultra marathon. And if you're doing a very long race, like 100-miler, although this race isn't really about that, you want to hold off as long as you can, so that way when the nighttime comes, you're ready with the caffeine to block. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening, and I know I'm hoping for a better week next week for sure. I mean, this week was really tough, so I will see if I can get this Achilles figured out, and yeah, next week we'll talk about electrolytes, and I appreciate you guys being here, listening to the podcast. If you want, you can subscribe or like, leave a comment, and catch you next time. Thanks for listening.